pretty versatile in the turtle position. Lots of ways we can weave this through in front headlocks and the side of turtle. Okay. Long story short, you guys can use a lot of the same details we use in the turtle to begin with. Okay, so if we're starting front headlock, we can always use our knee to block our partner's arm. Okay, that's going to be a huge part of the choke. Okay, and then we can just punch the non-chin strap hand through. Okay, but in general, like you're just typically going to be perpendicular to your partner. Okay, and then locking your hands here with our normal body lock grips. Now, this is really the first thing to talk about here. What you're always going to deal with the Darce is your partner extending their spine. Okay, right here in the beginning, it's a little more subtle. It's mostly just CJ lifting his head up. Okay, so if he lifts his head up and we use something more shallow, like a gable grip here, okay, it's going to be very hard to break him down. So in a lot of cases here, it's going to be favorable to switch to an S grip, so I can really use my elbow to sink his head down. Okay, now from here, when I do this, I'm keeping my chest tight to his shoulder, also a big part of this position. Okay, like I'm drawing a straight line through his shoulders with my sternum. Okay, at this point you guys can switch to a gable grip if you want to, but it's not completely necessary. All right, what we're gonna look to do mainly is step our back foot towards his legs so we can start to circle in that direction as we pull with our elbows. Okay, as I break him down here, I want to get nice and perpendicular to him. Okay, there's also a couple things I want to look for. All right, first thing, okay, I want to take my ear and I want to put it on his back. All right, I want to be constantly pulling CJ towards me. If I let him move away, this is going to be much harder to lock. Yeah, you guys see when my head's here, it's harder for him to do that. So don't lock the Darce up here. If he goes flat to his back, go ahead. Yeah, this is going to make things very complicated here. All right. The other thing I'm doing is keeping my chest aligned with his arm here, okay? And I'm making sure this arm stays across. So I can't have him bringing this arm out, going for tight waist grips, okay? That's gonna have to make me change my submission because his shoulder's off the neck. So guys, if he's bringing his arm out while you're here, this is where you really want to use your legs to keep his arm in check, okay? Whichever direction he goes. So like if he tries to bring his elbow over his head, for example, I'm gonna use this leg to bring his arm back to the middle, okay? So head is tight, arms in the middle, and lastly, I'm sitting on my heels here. Two main adjustments for getting the choking arm deep. Okay, first one, especially if you have longer arms, again, there's a lot of friction on the neck here. We can look to just dip this grip slightly to release the friction and then punch it through, okay? If that's ever not enough or we can't do that, all right, the second thing we're gonna do is we're gonna use this elbow to start burying his head here, but really bring his chin to his chest so he can punch this arm through, all right? Now as we start to lock up, I wanna rotate this palm up as I bring my elbow in to get the best bite possible. I wanna reach for my tricep, okay? Same thing here. I wanna move my head out of the way so I can now encapsulate this on his shoulder blade, okay? This should do a pretty good job of controlling where he goes now in terms of putting his back on the floor, all right? Last thing, I don't necessarily want him to start scrambling, going belly down, coming up to turtle, stuff like that. So it's important we get lower body control, okay? So that's what my back leg is gonna focus on here. Potentially the tightest grip we can get is mount, all right? So I'm really gonna lean towards the head side hip, get a big step over here, pull my heel into his lower back. And remember guys, when we finish a Darce, it's not so much squeezing as it is like a rear naked choke or an arm triangle or an Anaconda, where we make this tight and then we pull the choking elbow up to the ceiling, okay? So that's the arm that comes through. We wrap up here and move the head out of the way, and this elbow should be pulling to the ceiling. A pretty famous example of this recently, again, Islam Makhachev used this grip, okay? You can use what we call a short arm Darce to both set up and finish it if you don't have the physical attributes to make the strong S grip or make the strong gable grip or get that good figure four at the end, right? So sometimes here, if we are able to break that head down and we can't make that grip, what we're gonna actually do is grab our own wrist here instead, okay? Now, what's cool about this is even though I'm not encapsulating as tight as I could with the gable grip, okay? If I truly can't reach here, this is gonna make a lot of pressure here, okay? So it still gives me a strong ability, okay, to turn his head here, all right? Now watch, when I push through, okay, I'm keeping my elbow as close to his bottom ear as possible. Okay, I'm grabbing my forearm the same way, like still rotate your palm up, still grab your forearm and still reach. Just lock it the best you can, especially with this grip. See, this hand's not going super high either, but watch when I row my elbow. That's still gonna cut my forearm into his neck and make a decent amount of pressure there. And if you guys are starting from front headlock, make sure you're hitting that block with your knee here as you pull your arm through so we don't lose control of the position. But again, just in general, you guys are gonna end up in this position a lot from many different situations, all right? Chest tight to the shoulder. Again, I really wanna focus on breaking his head down here, okay? Now, this doesn't matter as much right now, but if you guys want another good habit, this is gonna go into the other setups we do here. You see how low my head and my shoulder is? Okay, that's where I wanna go eventually anyways. So I'm gonna recommend that you don't start up here, okay? I mean, it's not the end of the world if you do, but it's definitely gonna be tighter if you drop your head and your shoulder like this, okay? I'm gonna step towards his legs, start to walk. And you guys see my head's already in a good position when I do that, all right? So now from here, I'm gonna loosen this grip, punch it through, okay? Remember, you're gonna have to do this a lot of times anyways. As you go to lock it up, use this elbow to roll his head in and turn this palm up to grab your tricep. Same thing here, move your head out of the way, grab as high on the shoulder as you can, okay? Now to finish it off, step over the hips, big heel pull as I pull my right elbow to the ceiling. Sometimes when we're in turtle, okay, especially if Jason does something like make his knees really wide, no matter how much you turn this way, it's really hard to turn the person with this like cable 3/4 grip. Okay? We could just abandon and switch to something else. On paper, that's the wiser choice if it's earlier in the match, right? But we do have opportunities to switch the angle of the Darce here. Okay, go belly up with it. Okay. So when that's the case, I can't turn them. Instead, I'll just start to turn my hips outwards and basically do a sit out here, okay? And then from here, we'll use the basically using all the same details, just at a different angle. I'll still use sort of an overback grip to push his head down, okay? If his head does come up, you can still use the S grip to break it down and do all the same things we already did, okay? Otherwise, we can just use the tricep to push the head down, just like we did last time, okay? And remember, turn that palm out, wiggle it through. Okay, same thing here. And guys, move your head out of the way. It's gonna help a lot, okay? Now, when I go to finish here, it's very important that I'm walking towards him, just like an Anaconda Choke, okay? One of his counters here is to roll on top of me, so I can start to spread this arm out, and this is where, not only can I not choke him, but eventually my arms will start to slip and they'll start to escape and get on top. Okay, so that's the risk of doing this setup, okay? However, if I start to walk this way, if Jason goes to do the same thing, it's incredibly difficult, okay? Now, just like the Anaconda, I'm gonna bridge, and I'm gonna pull that choking elbow behind. A lot of you are electing to drop to your back for some reason. This is what's gonna happen. Pay attention to Gabe's inside arm. How about now? See how easy that is? That's exactly what he wants to do. Look at this, no choke. Okay, and then eventually this grip is going to start to weaken and you're going to end up in the bottom side control. If we're here, I want this, okay? If I'm on bottom of him here, I want this still, okay? If I turn Gabe to his side, I want this, okay? I don't want him getting around my waist, cuts it off, okay? And I definitely, when I'm darcing somebody, don't want him to have the ability to get this arm over his head. Right. Okay? We have to keep this arm in alignment. That's very important if you want to choke people with this. Okay? Let's go back what I was talking about with the last one. Okay? This is what I meant. When I have the ear on the back and the shoulder underneath, this gives me different angles to already punch a tight Darce, right? Alright, so again, setting this up the same way. Okay? Stuffing that head here. Okay, guys, especially with this one, do not do a sit out if his head is up. Okay, always stuff the head here, okay? Got that shoulder low in the armpit, my ear on his back, okay? I'm gonna sit my left leg through, And guys, remember the integrity of this arm. Do not let it come across your body. We need to use that hip to keep his arm across his neck, okay? Now from here, I pull this through. Again, I use my free elbow now, ideally without losing tension, to push his head down so I can roll my hand up and lock. 1, 2, okay? Now I start walking towards his head. So now if he tries to turn towards me, very difficult, okay? It's already choking him, all right? So as I do that, what I'm doing is I'm walking towards him, I'm keeping my legs wide, and I'm pulling this elbow underneath, okay? In for a knee slice, okay, we looked at beating the knee shield, different ways of knee cut here, so on and so forth, okay? Now remember, a lot of times here, people will be half guard specialists, they'll be actually looking to give up the knee shield so they can punch an underhook, okay? Very important that when I do that, I frame on the neck, okay? If I don't, he's gonna keep coming forwards, that underhook's gonna be deep, and there's no way I can attack a front headlock here. This is a good position for him, okay? So right about here, okay? Since we are going for the Darce, we're accepting the underhook. We're not trying to pummel, okay? Now, this is the part that messes everybody up. You should not be trying to punch a Darce from here. Okay? Again, nobody has arms this long, all right? Instead, what you should be looking to do is once you stop him here, pull his head in and start to knee cut. Okay, you guys see when I knee cut, it brings me back to that same upper body position as the last two techniques. I'm trying to drop my shoulder and my ear as much as possible, while also my hip is pushing his underhook to the floor as much as possible. You guys see now I can actually bring my hand through it, okay? Now, this is one of the main positions where you guys are gonna have to deal with problems where he extends the spine, right? Yeah, this. Then you can't lock it. So again, that's when you go back to that S grip and you pummel that head down, okay? And then from here, we can start to weave this through. Now, just like the split squat itself, this is where we're gonna have to rely heavily on the over back grip too, okay? See, I'm still not quite deep with this arm. So I'm gonna bring this through and then rotate my palm up so I can make my grip, okay? Now, same thing here. I'm gonna move my head out of the way and grab his shoulder. Okay, I'm gonna loosen up so I can explain the rest. Now, I like to show this setup too because this really organizes our lower body finishes too, okay? Jason has me in a half guard. It's good when people try to half guard you when you're Darcing them, okay? They're basically keeping themselves in the position, all right? So when this is the case, I'm not gonna stay here all day trying to Darce him and pull my foot out of this quarter guard, okay? I'm just gonna let him have it, and I'm gonna actually use this as my finishing position here. Probably, as a result, one of the most common finishing positions for a Darce, okay? So, again, we have everything set here. Okay, again, make sure that arm's in the middle too, guys. Don't forget about that, all right? Now from here, what I'm gonna look to do is lay on the head side hip so I can feed my trap foot through and use it to pull his legs in so I can cross my feet, okay? Once I cross my feet here, if he tries to free himself from this, go ahead. See, now his leg is stuck, okay? Now from here, all we're doing is just leaning towards the head and again, pulling our elbow to the ceiling, okay? From the split squat, maybe we clear that knee shield too and he panics here and shoots the underhook. Again, posting here, okay? Starting to drop our head and our shoulder. Remember the main movement to do that is you guys almost want to feign like you're knee cutting, okay? As I do that, I'm pulling his head in. And again, guys, if we're going against somebody experienced here, count on him to start stretching his spine out. Okay, that's when you should S grip and really pull this in, okay? And then from here, I'm gonna use that S grip to pull my wrist through, as well as this over back grip to stuff his head, okay? Rotating my palm up 1, palm up here 2, move my head out of the way. Now guys, don't pull your foot out. Keep his leg here. Start to sit to your head side hip, cross your feet, pull your feet in, and now we're gonna pull our choking elbow to the ceiling. That's my right elbow here. Okay, just like every other finish. Again, here, here, and we're still doing this. Okay? This setup does not have to be all him getting an underhook, okay? I want you guys to remember back when we did the row drag, for example. So if he's like pushing here, you know, we looked at ways to cut this over, right? If he happens to push more shallow, again, this is a very weak pose. So you guys can find a lot of situations here where you bring the arm this way. I don't have to really use my hip to drive his arm down. Like I have a really good position here already to start folding his head. Okay, so that's really like 2 ways I can threaten the Darce from here. Like either find ways to pummel this across or get the underhook, okay? Right now we're just working off the underhook because that's probably the more common situation that you guys are gonna find yourselves in. All right, so we're gonna stick with the same thing, okay? Again, getting our ear low, really trying to dip the shoulder through the armpit as much as possible, killing the extension of his spine, getting this through. Okay, now, you guys probably felt that especially when you were repping with your partners, a lot of times here, they weren't holding onto that foot so tight. This is gonna bring us to our last finishing position with the lower body, right? So if CJ kicks that bottom leg away, okay, and I can't find it, again, the problem here is that he could potentially turtle, and I wanna slow that. So instead, I'm gonna grab the remaining leg here, okay? Now, a couple things could happen, okay? If I do this quickly enough and I really secure his hip with this pinch of the knees, he could just get stuck here and I'll just finish him right here, okay? For the sake of the drill though, let's assume he gets all the way up, okay? Now guys, when he gets all the way up, you see this arm? This is very, very important. I'm still using my torso to keep this arm across his body, okay? If he pulls this out, let's assume he comes through this way. Like I could even have the Darce lock still. This is not gonna be a good Darce finish because again, his shoulder's off of his neck. That's when you guys are gonna have to use this to combine with your guillotines or your butterfly sweeps, stuff like that. Assuming that didn't happen, the good news is all you're gonna do is the same thing, okay? We're gonna start to drop over that head, pull our legs in, and same thing, I'm gonna pull my right elbow up to the ceiling. Basically finish a Darce from like almost a guillotine position if you would, right? All right, so at any point where, you know, we're hooking that leg as he comes up, okay? Just like a lot of guillotine setups we do, we can switch leg positions if we need to. So if we're here and we're finishing the Darce, and like, same thing could happen here, guys. Like he could kick his leg out here as well. And then we'd have to go to a shin block, kind of like Marcelo Garcia style, where we throw the leg over and pull the elbow. Okay? In some cases here, this foot can pass through, and we can go to a close guard and pull that elbow. But keep in mind, if you do get that secondary leg and you go to Darce somebody, you shouldn't let them get up to turtle. Okay? And if you do this well enough, it'll be very hard for them to get up to turtle. Okay? All right, so everything's the same here. However, when I go to pull that bottom leg in, he's able to free it. So instead, I switch to the top leg, okay? Try to get out. At any point there, I can try to finish, okay? In this case, for the sake of the drill, I'll let him come up, okay? Remember, we want to keep this arm across his body, and now I'm gonna pull my legs in, as well as pull my right elbow to the ceiling.